Hi guys, I kind of had to force myself to click the camera to record before I second guessed myself because lately, I want to be completely honest, I have been second guessing myself a lot. And it's not because I'm not confident, it's not because I don't believe in myself, it's because I'm doing something that does scare me and takes me out of my comfort zone. And as the title says, why I'm making Redbird my first feature film and why it scares me. That's kind of what I want to talk about today. When I started, I wrote the feature Redbird in 2022. And I wrote it because it was post-pandemic and I was signed to a top agency and I was calling and I was getting gaslit. The agents were just saying things like, oh, we're submitting you. And I was auditioning for things that were pretty good, but I was auditioning for them like once every 6 months. So my career was going nowhere. At the time, I was pretty isolated. I was working a job that paid the bills, but I didn't really like. I was living in a nice apartment, but I didn't really have like roommates because the roommate I lived with was like, they were like on a trip or something. I didn't really have community, and I kind of like went into my internal world. I remember I had just watched Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and let me turn this light off. I feel like it's burning my eyes. I had just watched Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and I remember how great that was. I remember how I felt seen as a young woman discovering her identity, especially like a queer young woman discovering her identity. And I remember that Portrait of a Lady on Fire shows a lot of that like identity discovery, and I really liked that. Unfortunately, Portrait of a Lady on Fire has a really sad ending because the director, Celine Sciamma, I love you, Celine, kind of believes that like you have to have like a compromise. She thinks like endings should kind of be like the Titanic, where something of that nature happens. I don't believe that, but everybody's different. And she wanted to bring tragedy to this queer period piece because to her it was fulfilling artistically. So I remember I was like around 2021, 2022, and I sat with Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and I think it did really good things for me because it made me excited, but it also like made me sad, and it kind of like ingrained in my system that like queer love was tragic, because that's kind of all we've been getting, especially women like when it comes to cinema. The cinema we get isn't very positive. It's very tragic. It always ends in like a lesson, like, you see, women can't do what they want to do, or you will end up with a man. Like, that's usually what queer cinema for women kind of like equates to sometimes. And no, there's gems out there, like Imagine Me and You, that didn't represent that whatsoever. But what I noticed was that as an actress and as somebody who loves cinema, was that, gems like Imagine Me and You, queer stories that had a happy ending, like those things were few and far in between. And because they're so few and far in between, it's hard to even find them. In fact, I only watched Imagine Me and You because I realized that Lena Headey was played Luce, and Lena Headey is from Game of Thrones. And I liked Lena Headey because I feel like when I'm older, I want to look a little bit like her, if I could, if God permits, because she's such a talent. She's one of those women that is like ageless, absolutely stunning, absolutely ageless. So I admired her, and I went ahead and I saw that film, and I realized that it did have a happy ending. I did a review on Imagine Me and You. I talked about how, although it is a film that is queer and has a happy ending, I felt like it lacked showing like the identity of who these actresses were outside of romantic relationships, but that's a story for another time. So like I said, I wrote the script in 2022, and I showed it to some people, and my friends, like my cinema friends, were like, they laughed. They're directors. Like one of my besties, Kansas, she read it, she loved it. My friends, that I've acted for, they loved it as well. But at the end of the day, they're my friends, so I was like, of course they're gonna like anything I make. I wonder what other people think about it. And I did show it to a couple of other people, and the responses weren't that great. So then I decided to shelf that script, and I went ahead and I made a short, which is Frida the Woman, which you can find here if I haven't removed it yet for streaming purposes. And then that short was really cool because that short went to Oscar qualifying film festivals. That short, I got to really authentically delve into the life of Frida Kahlo, because it was a short about Frida Kahlo. And I got to travel to Mexico City on my own dime, by the way. And I got to work with authentic Mexican actresses that lived in Mexico. And we got to shoot it on 16 millimeters, and we took it to festivals. And my best friend Kansas Bowling, she taped it for us. She was a cinematographer. She shoots on 16 millimeters, so it was about as authentic as a film as it could get. And it got to really far places, really high places, in my opinion. And that made me really, really hungry. And it made me realize that I really like acting, because I acted as Frida Kahlo in that film. But so it did two things for me. I was like, I'm hungry to direct, and I'm hungry to keep acting. So I then decided it was time to shoot Redbird. I decided it was time to shoot Redbird once one of my friends who's a director, I showed him the script, and he was like, Marley, you have a really strong voice, and we need that now. Go shoot it. And he was a guy, so I thought he wasn't gonna like the film whatsoever, and he did. And I was just like, oh wow. And like then I just started showing it. I rewrote it. I found a really nice Canadian producer who helped me rewrite the script, and I rewrote it. We rewrote it together. And then I just started believing in it again. I started believing that Redbird could be the queer love story that, you know, focused on this character called Kaylee, who's a musician, and that it could go to places, you know? Like, even if we shot it through crowdfunding, even if we shot it in parts, I started believing in it again. And on my Patreon, I discuss like a little bit more in depth, like the steps that I'm taking towards producing this film. Right now, as it concerns YouTube, I don't want to bore you guys with like the bloody details of what goes into making a movie. But just for perspective, like making a feature film can be as difficult as you want it to be. Like, I know people who've made feature films for like $3,000, and they only spent money because they had to buy lunch, or they had to like buy submissions for festivals, or like they had to convert the film so that it could go to festivals. Like, in fact, I know for a fact that I can shoot Redbird for that little bit of money as well. But then for example, I just got off a meeting with a producer who's like, yeah, well, if your film isn't going to get distributed by someone like Neon, and if you're not going to take advantage of the tax credits in Europe, like, then let's just, like, then don't make a film, you know? He didn't say that I'm not quoting him per se, but I'm just saying, like, I just spoke today with a producer that, you know, he makes films of like a really, really high caliber of like 5 million and above. So it was very interesting to hear his perspective on the dynamics of how to make a film. With Redbird, however, I decided that come hell or high water, I'm gonna shoot it next year. This year I'm gonna shoot the teaser version, which I'm gonna shoot in 2 weeks, and I have a couple of great actors to help me do it, and that's gonna go to festivals. But as it concerns the feature, it's gonna be shot next year, come hell or high water. Like, I don't have a house, but if I have to mortgage the house, then so be it. You guys get the idea. It's either gonna be a community, a labor of love, and we're all gonna get together and put together some funds to shoot it, or I will get lucky and attach a talent and attach a production company that believes in me and helps me push it through the finish line. Both options are very possible, but as somebody who's going through it, as somebody who's mostly been an actress all her career, and as somebody who's mostly been like, you know, at the assistant level, at the like entry level, entry to mid level, as somebody who's like making that transition in her career as like a professional marketer and producer, like that really, it really is a terrifying place for me to be in right now. And yeah, so then I decided, why not share my terror with you guys, because I feel like it might help some of you guys. Because it helped me. Like when I was looking to do this journey, I was always following my friend Jonah Feingold, and seeing the way he did things, like, you know, he's not much of a mystery guy, he just puts stuff out there. Seeing the way he did things and listening to interviews of like Greta Gerwig and all these people that like make great things because they just go for it, like the Duplass brothers, the woman who wrote Shameless, like listening to all these filmmakers like say things that they probably thought they shouldn't share at the time, or that they thought were not so glamorous or exciting to share at the time, was actually what helped me the most. So I decided to go ahead and like get rid of the mystery, get rid of the glamour, and invite you guys into my world. And for sure, I'm always going to be posting videos here on YouTube that are free. Of course, there's going to be a lot of free videos and blogs on Patreon to help you if you're an actor or if you're a filmmaker. But there is going to be a paid tier. For now, I'm going to start the Spark tier, which is just $5 a month. And for $5 a month, you can like delve into the stuff that I'm doing now, and you can get early access to the teaser. I'm going to make more tiers later on, but I haven't decided what that's going to look like yet. But part of the fact, I'm going to open more tiers later on, and I'm going to open to you guys, my Patreon users, the opportunity to be producers in the film Redbird. What does a producer credit do for you? Like, how is that going to help me, Marley? Well, it will. If the film goes to Tribeca, if it goes to like a distinguished festival like Outfest or Berlin or something like that, then what could happen is that like your name is going to be there and you're going to get to know me. So yeah, I think that's both scary and fun. Scary to know me. All right, well, I hope you guys like my grandma shirt. I didn't think it was going to look like a grandma shirt. I thought it was cool because it's a really cool color, because I like blue. But it is a grandma shirt. Miss you, Grandma. All right, love you guys.